Huh. This world that we're living in is really getting to a point where we don't know who we can trust or what we can trust. Religion has let us down. Politics has let us down. Our communities at times really let us down. And where can we look? What can we find for some stability, so from some foundational truth? What's the source code that's behind all of it that we can actually build our lives on? I'm going to say astrology, but this astrology that I'm talking about is different than what most people think of when they think of astrology. And the whole point of astrology for me is to find something that isn't going to let me down, that's very ancient in its structure. It's built with archetypes and it's built with story. I'm so lucky to have a brilliant and talented friend that's an astrologer. She's also my astrologer. And I've talked about her before because I just majorly love her. I just love you.
You
I do. I
too.
really do
It's
love you.
we
Dr. Antoinette MacKenzie. She and I have had these conversations over time, and we've come to this development of what we're calling slow astrology. So let's slow down astrology so it's more nourishing, so that we can get something into our bloodstream, so that we can integrate with it.
That's it. It's consuming, but not necessarily absorbing the nutrients that are there, that are available. I often feel that it's just too fast sometimes.
So at this point, I'm going to do something I have not done before. I'm going to share a slideshow with you. I'm going to share PowerPoint. What's going on in astrology? There's a little bit of sensationalism, putting more to it than there actually is. Life is happening all the time. And astrology is really the code that's behind everything. You could take anything, and decode it. Like your drive to the grocery store. That's astrology too. Number two, I feel like there's this conveyor belt. There's always something happening, and there's always something that's interesting that's going on in the sky. But it's always this processing of going forward, forward, forward. There's no looking back. The long lens view is missing. Now, also, this simplicity of the topics: love, money, whatever. Those are all good things, great things. We all want those things. And the more simplistic these topics are, the more they're going to pull in views. But there's so much more complexity to these things. Like, what is love? What do you want love for? What kind of love do you want to give back? There's philosophy behind it. It's not like Venus and Jupiter have a trine and all of a sudden you're going to get love and money. Well, maybe. Or maybe this trine means that something comes and you take advantage of it and you don't really care that much. It's usually the squares and the oppositions, the hard things, that really give you the perspective. Anyway, simplicity. The next thing, it's overcomplicated in this astro jargon, like, I just said. Venus trine Jupiter. It makes sense to anybody that follows astrology closely or studies astrology. But when you start even talking about astrological stuff, it gets very jargony really quickly. Not to simplify, to let it stay complex, but to open it up so that it's not so gatekept by the jargon. That's all. So Antoinette, here's what she said. I feel that's what's been overloading me and possibly others on social media. The astrology there often feels very much like a news feed for astrology, very fast, in the moment, time-space journalism, no digesting and assimilating. It gets so exhausting and abstract. I feel like it's exacerbating imbalances in our culture.
Certainly on Instagram, you're starting to see the kind of beiging out where the environment, the algorithm, the platform, and the sheer clutter and noise and speed of it is that people are just throwing stuff out there, all starting to sound the same, speaking the same buzzwords.
Yes.
It's quite chilling in a way. It's quite flattening out of the culture.
The dopamine rush of the future is what seems to sell, but maybe there's a new way to do astrology that needs developing, like the slow food movement, slow astrology. Food astrology. We'll take those two together, right? Because we're kind of talking slow food and slow astrology. You need to eat. You need to eat something to survive. But you can choose what you're going to eat, and it'll nourish you or it will deplete you, right? Whatever you put into your body. Same with any kind of content. What you choose to interact with, it can nourish you or it can deplete you.
We can only absorb so much. And so after a while, we do need to be selective and discerning about what goes in there, or what we hold, what we let go, in order to make space for how we create rather than just consume. There's got to be some sort of balance between the two. Otherwise, everything we're consuming has little point if we can't integrate and then therefore generate or create something and, offer our sort of flowering in the world, or our it's what we give as well, what we're here to give. Not just give others, but just be ourselves in the world.
So that's where we started with this whole idea. The next building block of our slow astrology came from following the malefic trail. I said most of life's blows can be understood through the archetypes of the malefic planets in astrology. Those are the quote unquote bad planets, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, and sometimes Uranus. Understanding the ultimate purpose of these planets that make us work hard and experience challenging things can be a form of spiritual practice. It's going to happen either way, so why not pull back to the pale blue dot perspective? I reference the pale blue dot a lot because I love it. It's Carl Sagan, and it's a picture of Earth. So by taking the pale blue dot pulled back perspective, maybe we can start to see how pain can ultimately become personal power instead of having power over you. When you see these things coming up with malefics and, maybe a conjunction between Mars and Saturn or something like that, or Mars on your personal planets, all this stuff, right? Yeah, it's going to indicate that there's some challenge. You're going to have to be strong. You're going to have to be courageous. Something might be getting cut out of your life. It's important to know those things. But when you don't look at them in their patterning and understand what the point is over time, they lose meaning completely.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
That was the context for this next comment from Antoinette. What you were saying about following your malefic trail, the shadows we can embrace and not spurn. This is the opposite of the constant, rapid newsfeed reassurances that flit across the surface of the shadowlands, acting as temporary filler, ultimately unsatisfying. And then, Antoinette, one more time, brilliant. It's so understandably human to pull away from pain, a right and proper instinct. And though we don't want to dwell in the underworld too long, it's good to be tethered to our lives, who and what we love, and the open air. But we can't avoid the underworld altogether, hey? Being an American, I can't say hey like this. I would say huh, H-U-H, which this is way cooler. Hey, instead of huh? Yeah, okay, I digress. Perhaps we're a culture so addicted to the brightly lit places, fleeing from discomfort in the dark. But as a result, we've become more fearful and avoidant than ever. Ironically, we can end up suffering even more because of that. Avoidance can weaken us. People just want to feel seen because they're extraordinary in ways they don't always realize. People can make the mistake of thinking that all the wonderful blessings and love and abundance lives outside of them. There's a sacredness in slowing down and really wanting to abide with another person and see all of that in them. Love and abundance, it's inside of us all. It's inside of you. It's sacred what you are. Your chart points to that in so many ways. And the thing is, that's the astrology I'm talking about. This is the integrity of astrology. It's not about a quick journey either. That astrology chart you're born with, it's the same your whole life. You have all this potentiality. It can go in a lot of different directions. Astrology that's slowed down is helping that archaeology dig of ourselves to clear out the things about us that we might not think are acceptable or not good enough, or why am I like that? It can be tempting for astrologers to just go with the easy route and to tell people what they want to hear. But it's not right. Those are things that people want more of: more romance, more sex, more money, etc., right? More success, more everything. And for many people, no matter how much they have, it's not until they come to the realization that those things don't supply lasting happiness or satisfaction that they can find peace. But when we attach ourselves to those things as that's what makes me happy, that's where we get lost. Because those are things that are never going to be filled. So what are the solutions? For me, it's slowing down. We're slowing down and understanding through story. That's why I told a story about Smurfs. That's ridiculous. Or a story about, the guy that was climbing the Matterhorn and fell down and understood the speed of time. I mean, that's what we can understand. We understand stories best. And everything in astrology can be correlated to a story. And when we find those stories that matter and bring it, not to simplify, like I said, it's still complex, but it's useful. The purpose of astrology is to create some form of tangible meaning, something that makes sense of patterns and experiences. And that's not quick stuff. So that's where annual perfections and things like that come in, some of the astrology techniques where you see patterns over time. And this next bit is really the truth about what I think astrology is valuable for. Self-acceptance, accountability, and authenticity are the rewards of engaging with astrology. I never, ever thought I would be to this point in my life where I could come onto YouTube and just be myself. Honestly, I am. This is who I am. I'm more myself doing this than probably anything in my life because there's no filter here. There's absolutely no reason for me to be anything else. I can be accountable for myself because I can see, and self-acceptance is the biggest one. Sometimes we just really can be hard on ourselves, hard on ourselves. I'm so grateful to Antoinette for letting me share her beautiful words. I totally recommend following her on Substack and following her podcast. That being said, I like you just the way you are. And thanks for trying this out with me. I'll talk to you next time.